It was a day meant to be perfect. The kind of day every little girl dreams about: the white dress, the flowers, the music, and the love of her life waiting at the altar. Olivia had envisioned this moment 1,000 times. Yet, as she stood before the mirror in her bridal suite, surrounded by the soft rustle of satin and the faint hum of excited chatter, a quiet unease settled in her chest. Her best friend, Madison, stood by her side, adjusting the veil with a mix of precision and affection. "You look stunning," Madison said, her voice warm and reassuring. Olivia smiled faintly, but her reflection betrayed her. The sparkle in her eyes seemed dimmer than it should have been. Do you think this is normal?" Olivia asked hesitantly, her fingers nervously fiddling with the delicate lace of her gown. Madison paused, meeting Olivia's gaze in the mirror. "What do you mean?" "This feeling, like something's not quite right. I don't know if it's nerves or—" Olivia trailed off, unable to put her feelings into words. Madison took her hands gently. "Olivia, every bride feels a little jittery. It's a big step. But look at you, you're marrying Ethan. You two are great together." Olivia nodded. But her heart didn't fully agree. Ethan had always been charming and ambitious, the kind of man who could light up a room with his confidence. But over the past few months, his charm had started to feel more like a mask. His ambitious nature, once so inspiring, had become a source of tension. She thought back to their argument earlier in the week. It had been about something seemingly small, a cultural tradition Olivia's family cherished. A simple gesture, really, involving a symbolic dance at the reception. Ethan had dismissed it as outdated nonsense. His reaction had stung, not because of the tradition itself but because of what it revealed. He didn't seem to care about what mattered to her. "Everything okay, dear?" a voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Evelyn, Ethan's mother, stepping into the room with a scrutinizing glance. Dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit, Evelyn exuded the kind of confidence that could easily intimidate. Olivia straightened instinctively. "You look nice," Evelyn said. Her tone clipped. "Thank you," Olivia replied, her voice soft. "Let's hope the ceremony runs on time. Ethan has important people here today," Evelyn added, as if Olivia needed a reminder of her fiancé's high-profile career. Madison bristled but said nothing. Olivia simply nodded. Her earlier unease now mingled with frustration. Evelyn had never truly warmed to her, always making subtle comments that chipped away at her confidence. Today, of all days, Olivia had hoped for some semblance of support. The ceremony began with all the grandeur one would expect. The church was adorned with elegant floral arrangements, and the soft strains of a string quartet filled the air. As Olivia walked down the aisle, arm in arm with her father, she searched Ethan's face for reassurance. He smiled. But it was a smile she'd seen before, a practiced one. The kind he used during business meetings or networking events. Her heart sank slightly, but she pushed the thought aside. This was her wedding day. She had to focus on the moment, on the vows they were about to exchange. The words came easily, rehearsed and polished. Ethan's vows were eloquent, but they lacked the warmth Olivia had longed to hear. When it was her turn, she spoke from the heart, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. For a brief moment, she thought she saw a flicker of genuine feeling in Ethan's eyes, but it was gone as quickly as it came. After the ceremony, the reception unfolded like a well-orchestrated performance. Guests mingled. The band played lively tunes, and the air was filled with laughter and clinking glasses. But Olivia felt like an outsider at her own celebration. Ethan was absorbed in conversation with a group of his colleagues, barely glancing in her direction. Evelyn, meanwhile, had taken it upon herself to critique every detail, from the choice of centerpieces to the seating arrangements. Olivia bit her tongue, determined not to let Evelyn ruin her day. Madison, ever the loyal friend, stayed by Olivia's side, cracking jokes and offering quiet words of encouragement. But even her presence couldn't shake the growing sense of isolation Olivia felt. As the evening wore on, Olivia found herself standing alone by the edge of the dance floor, watching as Ethan laughed with his friends. She thought about the promises they had made earlier, the life they were supposed to build together, and for the first time, she wondered if those promises had been made on a shaky foundation. Madison appeared at her side, a glass of champagne in hand. "You okay?" she asked gently. "I don't know," Olivia admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Madison gave her a long, thoughtful look. "You don't have to have all the answers right now," she said. "But Olivia, whatever you're feeling, it's valid. Don't ignore it." Olivia nodded, grateful for Madison's unwavering support. But as she glanced back at Ethan, still immersed in his own world, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong. The perfect day, it seemed, was beginning to unravel. And deep down, Olivia knew this was only the beginning. Life after the wedding settled into a rhythm that felt more like a series of obligations than a shared journey. Ethan's demanding career as a corporate lawyer consumed his time, leaving Olivia feeling increasingly like a supporting character in his carefully curated world. The spacious apartment Ethan had insisted they buy was sleek and modern but felt cold, lacking the warmth Olivia longed for. Its minimalist design mirrored their relationship, polished on the surface but hollow underneath. Most evenings, Ethan came home late, distracted by work calls or immersed in files sprawled across their glass dining table. "Just another big case," he would say with a dismissive wave, as though expecting her to understand without question. At first, Olivia tried to be supportive. She cooked dinners, arranged date nights, and even surprised him with little gestures, a handwritten note in his briefcase or his favorite dessert waiting after a long day. But Ethan rarely noticed, caught up in a world where results and prestige meant everything. One particularly stormy evening, Olivia sat alone by the window, watching rain streak across the glass. Dinner sat untouched on the table, candles flickering weakly against the dark. Ethan had texted hours ago, "Late meeting. Don't wait up." Loneliness settled over her like the relentless rain outside. She reached for her phone, scrolling through old photos of happier times, vacations filled with laughter, spontaneous weekends at the beach. Back then, Ethan's smile had been real, his eyes full of warmth and possibility. What had changed? The front door clicked open just past midnight, and Ethan stepped in, drenched from the rain but still impeccably dressed. He barely glanced at Olivia. "Long day," he muttered, shrugging off his coat. "I made dinner," Olivia offered softly, though she knew how this would go. "Sorry. Grabbed something at the office." His voice was mechanical, devoid of apology. Olivia's chest tightened. "Ethan, can we talk?" He sighed, already heading toward the bedroom. "Can it wait? I'm exhausted." "No, it can't," she said, standing her ground. "I feel like we're living separate lives. We barely talk anymore. I miss us." Ethan turned, his expression a mix of irritation and weariness. "Olivia, not every marriage is a fairy tale. We're adults. Things get busy. But we're more than just busy," she insisted, her voice trembling. "We're disconnected." His jaw tightened. "Look, I'm working hard for our future. Not everyone has the luxury of sitting around analyzing feelings all day." The words struck like a slap, leaving Olivia breathless. She fought back tears, refusing to let him see how deeply he'd hurt her. Without another word, Ethan disappeared into the bedroom, leaving Olivia standing alone in the silent, empty apartment. That night, as the storm raged outside, she realized something painful but undeniable. Love alone wasn't enough if only one heart was fighting to keep it alive. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between Ethan and Olivia grew wider, an invisible chasm neither seemed willing or able to bridge. Their conversations became transactional, revolving around schedules, bills, and polite pleasantries. Did you pay the electric bill? Don't forget the meeting with the realtor. I'll be late again tonight. Olivia threw herself into her work as a freelance illustrator, finding solace in the world she created with her art, whimsical landscapes, enchanted forests, and loving families that felt more real than her own life. Her sketches brimmed with warmth, a stark contrast to the coldness of her reality. One evening, after finishing a particularly heartfelt commission of a mother holding her child beneath a canopy of autumn leaves, Olivia sat back, staring at the piece. She felt a pang of longing, a yearning not just for the family she once dreamed of but for the shared connection she and Ethan had lost. Determined to try one last time, Olivia planned a surprise dinner on their anniversary, a quiet, intimate evening like they used to have. She spent hours cooking Ethan's favorite dishes: rosemary-crusted lamb, creamy mashed potatoes, and chocolate lava cake for dessert. Soft jazz played in the background, candles flickering with hope. By 7 p.m., everything was ready. Olivia smoothed her dress and waited, heart pounding with anticipation. She imagined Ethan walking in, surprised and touched, remembering the love they still shared beneath all the strain. But as the clock ticked past 8 p.m., then 9, the hope dimmed like the candles on the table. At 9:30, the front door creaked open, and Ethan walked in, his tie askew and his face drawn with exhaustion. He froze, noticing the table set so elegantly, the meal now cold and untouched. "Is it our anniversary?" he asked, guilt flashing across his features. Olivia's throat tightened. "Yes." Ethan exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "Olivia, I'm so sorry. The Anderson case blew up today." She held up a hand, forcing a small, sad smile. "It's okay." But it wasn't. They sat in silence at the table, eating reheated food that tasted of regret and missed chances. Ethan made an effort, asking about her art projects, offering compliments that felt rehearsed. Olivia answered politely, but the connection they once had felt irreparably frayed. Later that night, as they lay in bed, backs turned to each other, Olivia stared into the dark, tears slipping silently onto her pillow. She realized that love couldn't survive on memories alone. It needed presence, effort, and a willingness to fight for each other, things that felt increasingly out of reach. And for the first time, she wondered if she was holding on to something that had already slipped away. Weeks passed after the forgotten anniversary, and life continued in its familiar rhythm, busy, distant, and weighed down by unspoken feelings. Yet something lingered in both Ethan and Olivia's minds, the aching awareness that what they had was slipping through their fingers. One quiet Sunday morning, Olivia sat by the large bay window, sketchbook in hand, drawing absent-mindedly. Her lines were softer, more reflective. She drew 2 trees, their branches stretching toward one another but never quite touching. Ethan watched her from the doorway, his chest tightening. He remembered how he used to marvel at her art, how he would sit by her side, asking about each piece. When had he stopped noticing her world, summoning courage he hadn't felt in months? Ethan approached her. "Olivia," he began, voice steady but gentle. "I miss us." She looked up, surprised by the vulnerability in his tone. He sat beside her, gaze fixed on her sketch. "I've been chasing success so hard, thinking I was building a future for us, but I forgot you were my present." His voice trembled. "I don't want to lose you." Olivia's eyes glistened. "I kept thinking that if I waited long enough, things would change, but love doesn't work that way." She paused, her voice softer now. "I should have fought harder, spoken up, instead of retreating into my art." They sat in silence, absorbing the weight of their confessions. The distance between them felt smaller, more surmountable. "I don't know how to fix everything," Ethan admitted, "but I want to try, with you." Olivia reached for his hand. "Me too." From that day, They started rebuilding not with grand gestures or perfect promises, but with everyday kindness, shared moments, and honest conversations. Ethan learned to leave work behind sometimes, making space for quiet dinners and long walks. Olivia let him into her creative world again, sharing her art not as an escape but as a bridge between them. Success means nothing without someone to share it with. Love isn't built on achievements but on being present, listening, and showing up even when life gets hard. Love needs more than hope, it needs communication, vulnerability, and a willingness to fight for each other. Waiting for change isn't enough, real connection comes from mutual effort. They realized that love was not about perfection but persistence, about finding their way back to each other, no matter how lost they felt. And in that shared understanding, they discovered that even after seasons of distance, love could bloom again, stronger, deeper, and rooted in lessons learned.